Hey folks, and welcome to the dark side of Pattaya. That's right, we're in East Pattaya today. We are doing another installment of Test Ride Pattaya. And today we're going to test ride a Honda Forza 300. So a little bit about that. A subscriber contacted me and said, hey, I saw your previous episode on Test Ride Pattaya, which was a Yamaha X-Max 300. And he said, I have a very similar bike, but it's a Honda. It would be a very close competitor to the X-Max, the Forza 300. He said, come on by and take it for a ride. I'm hardly using it. So I decided to take him up on that offer. So here we are. The gentleman had a lovely home out here on the dark side, and he didn't really want to be on the video, and I respect his privacy, so I kind of edited him out. But this is the Forza 300, and it's a pretty black one. He had it all cleaned up for me, and I think he's had this for a little while, but he just doesn't use it much. I believe there was 2,800 kilometers on the clock the day I showed up to pick this up. And it was practically like new. If you told me it was new and I didn't look at the odometer, I would have believed you. So this is a good contrast, because the last one of these I tested was a rental bike, and rental bikes that had like 15,000 kilometers on it. God knows how many people rode that thing. So anyway, this is a newer one. We'll get a really good examination and test ride on this guy here. But there it is. It's a pretty bike, very sleek. I'll show you under the seat in a minute. And it's got a pretty comprehensive gauge package here. A lot of little things going on that screen. The LCD screen was a little bit busy, but the controls and everything were pretty much the same as the X-Max and pretty intuitive. So there's under the seat, supposed to be room for 2 helmets. We'll test that later. I'll put a helmet under there and see what we're working with. I was a little bit surprised that the seat didn't fold up farther. It seemed like it should have folded up a little bit higher, but let's go for a ride. So after about 3 or 4 minutes, I got used to it and got the hang of it, and said, well, let's take it out here on the railroad highway, the road that runs alongside the railroad tracks here. We can get it up to a decent speed here. It's a nice flat road with hardly any traffic. So we'll get up to 100. I like 100. It's about 60 miles an hour, and just see where the engine's buzzing along. Is that a comfortable cruising? Is that going to be more than where you want to cruise at? So I got up real slow up to 100, and then we take a look at it here, and it's right at 6,000 RPMs with a 9,000 RPM red line. So it's 66% power already at 100 kilometers an hour. Just like the X-Max that I tested, it really was comfortable at around 80, 85 kilometers an hour. Just crack the throttle open, and that's where it'll run. If you want to run 100 or more, you really got to hold on to it, because the bumps will upset it, just like the X-Max. But you're also really getting on the throttle. The engine feels more buzzy. There's more noise. It's just not a comfortable cruise, an effortless cruise at anything above 90. But it can be done. Still can be done. But I think this thing looks neat going down the road with those 2 mirrors sticking out. I'll talk a little bit about those on the review when we stop up here. And this bike had a little bit taller of a windshield, which did seem to do an effective job at keeping the air and the wind off of you. So this would probably be a good choice if you're going to do a lot of highway riding, if you're going to do touring maybe. More high-speed riding around town, really don't need a windshield. But if you're going to be touring and you're kind of, thinking between an X-Max and a Forza, that extra height on the windshield might be good. And you may be able to get a taller windshield for the X-Max. I know I have a slightly taller windshield on my bike. It's aftermarket, so they do exist. But let's go do some more distance. So that fits good. So I've probably driven 10, 12 kilometers around the dark side here. Some of these roads, very little traffic. You can get up to speed. Just a nice cruise. And it rides good. I don't feel quite as connected to it
as I did the X-Max, but I think it's a smoother ride. The other thing you have is a button here for the windshield. It's an electronic. The windshield will move up and down. You can fold mirrors in. You can fold mirrors in when you park. These mirrors, a little bit of the party piece of the bike, like a touring bike mirror, a mirror like a touring bike would have. It kind of gives it more of an upscale feel. Some of your expensive touring bikes, you even have the integrated turn signals there, all LED lights. Very good fit and finish on this. I think the engine is super smooth, power-wise. It doesn't complain as much. It just delivers the power very smooth, very gradually. It's not a quick jumper off the line or anything like that, but it's silky smooth. It's kind of what you'd expect for a Honda. I think Hondas are known for that. The engines just seem smoother. They kind of run like a sewing machine. It's not rough. It's not harsh. The ride's not rough or harsh. Although I just don't feel as connected to it as I did the X-Max. I felt more at home on the X-Max, but that's going to vary from person to person. This, I think, is a little bit easier to live with. The clearance between the seat and the ground, I felt better putting my feet flat on the ground on this. I don't think the seat's quite as wide or as high, so it's a little bit more designed to flat-foot it without having to slide forward like I did on the X-Max. And very nice gauges. You have a full host of indications here, including voltmeter, and it's easy to read. Got the time on there, which is wrong. It's not set, but 34 degrees. I believe that. It's a hot one today. So, all in all, it's been a smooth ride. And I feel that everything I touch on here is a little bit higher quality. Little touches like the chrome tips here on the grips. The finish on everything. There's not a dull plastic or everything shiny, except for maybe the mirror housings. I think the X-Max felt a little more stable at low speed, maybe because of the slightly wider tires. I believe the X-Max has a little bit wider of a tire, and it just felt like it held the road better and was more stable at low speeds. But I'd say maybe at high speed, maybe this one's better. Still, though, the real comfort spot on this guy is 80 to 90 kilometers an hour. You're at 6,000 RPMs at 100. And it's pushing it. It redlines there at 9, maybe 91, 92, something like that. So you're at 2/3 power, 66% power at 100 kilometers an hour. It's just, the sweet spot for this is somewhere 80 to 90. It really just barely crack the throttle. You're going to cruise at 80, 85. And I think that's a good indication of where there's effortless cruising. I've heard people say it's effortless cruising at 100, 120. That's just not true. It'll do it more than that. But that's not effortless cruising in terms of just cruising down the road, cracking this with the throttle cracked open. That's more like 80 to 90. You're in a hurry, you're trying to get somewhere, you open that throttle up a little bit more, 100, 120, you can do it. But you're going to be over 6,000 RPMs. It's not the sweet spot of the engine, but it will do it. But just for a nice leisurely cruise, if you're touring on this bike, I would just plan on 80 to 90 all day, throttle barely cracked open. That's where you're going to get your best gas mileage. That's where the engine's going to be the happiest. And that's where the suspension and brakes are going to be the happiest. The brakes are fine, but they're not as good as the X-Max brakes. The X-Max, really tremendous brakes. But these brakes are adequate. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just unremarkable. They're adequate for the bike, for the weight. Maybe if you had another passenger on there and some luggage, they might be a little bit lackluster. where I think the X-Max brakes would stand up even with two great big passengers. It just had tremendous brakes, but very comfortable machine. Which one would I get if I was buying one? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But this one is a couple thousand cheaper, at least on 2020. 2021, we'll see what happens, because I think this is getting upgraded to a 350. But I think I would go the extra for the X-Max, just because I felt more comfortable in the seat. I felt more connected to it. The brakes are better. And I think it has a little bit better off-the-line performance, although this cruises better at speed. It would be a hard decision. I'd have to really think about it. So good luck. I think I would lean more toward the X-Max. Although there's no way you're going to go wrong in this. And if it would come down to how you feel on the bike. And I just felt better personally on the X-Max. Maybe the wider seat. Maybe it was the wider seat. Maybe it's the way. Maybe that helped me feel more connected to it. I'm not sure, but that's going to be up to you. Performance and handling, it's basically a toss-up. Basically a toss-up. Although I think this has a higher quality fit and finish, maybe a little bit better put together, and a little bit cheaper. So it's a hard decision.
So yeah, I think for the next 10 kilometers or so, that question kind of burned in my mind. If I was getting one of these, which would I get, the Forza or the X-Max? And after thinking about it, I think the way the X-Max is designed and specifically engineered provides that connection that I felt. You know, the gentleman who lent me this Forza were totally different sized individuals, but he also claimed to have felt more connected to the X-Max. You feel like you're sitting in the X-Max. The Forza, you feel like you're sitting on it. But having said that, I think that's by design, and I believe the X-Max is probably more for the enthusiast motorcyclist or biker, but the Forza is probably more for somebody who's just looking for a nice scooter that's bigger and heavier, a little bit more substantial, and better grounded on the road, a little bit more planted at high speeds than a smaller scooter, and more power and so forth. So it's two separate things depending on what you're looking for. You'd probably have to go sit on both, but there's a restaurant right up here on the right, and I'm going to stop by and get something to eat.
So, you know I get hungry on these test rides. Never fails. So I stopped here at the Holland Tulip, and it seems like fresh baked bread is one of their things here. So I'm going to get a sandwich, and that way I get to try the bread. And it's lunchtime anyway. So I think a sandwich would be appropriate. We'll see how it is. But I'm enjoying the test ride. I've come up here to Talo, and I've probably been 25 kilometers on the bike. And it's a brilliant ride. I think one of the other really good features is those big mirrors. Going through traffic, those big mirrors kind of let you know where you are and how wide you are. You can really guide yourself through the traffic. It feels stable enough at low speed. And of course, what the mirrors are supposed to be for, which is rearward vision, they're brilliant at that. They're great big, they're in front of you. It's almost the same quality of a car mirror for your side view. So, very nice ride, very nice ride. And also, thanks to Blue for letting me test drive it. That was very nice of them, and I enjoyed it. So, get something to eat, and then we'll go back.
So yeah, there's my sandwich I had here at the Holland Tulip. I thought I got a shot of the menu, but I seem to not have. It didn't come out. it was just a photo instead of a video. So I apologize for that, but this was a good sandwich. Very good quality bread, good quality ham, good quality cheese, and the pickle was nice too. So 150 baht for that, not too bad. So that's another episode of Test Ride Pattaya. And we did this one on the dark side out here, the east side of Pattaya. And it was a hot day, but it was a good ride. I was probably altogether over probably about 2 hours on the bike, and with the assorted stops that I made along the way. But it was a good ride. I really got the feel of it, and I'm glad I did. It's, even though that's a direct competitor with the X-Max, they really are two different bikes, and I think they're for different kinds of people. You'll have to decide for yourself which one fits your style and needs the best if you're in the market for one. The Forza was just a little bit cheaper. The motor is smaller on the Forza too. I think it's really only like a 276 cc. It's not really a 300. It's close though, I guess, but very smooth, very refined. So either way, I don't think you could go wrong with either of those machines, the X-Max or the Forza. But for this episode, I'm going to go ahead and leave it off here, and as usual, I'll thank you for watching, and until next time, bye for now.